All right. Hi, guys. Here we go. Between the World and Me essay. Every, Everyone has their idea of what the American dream consists of. White picket fences in a suburb right outside of the city with cookie cutter houses, mailboxes, and neighbors that cook out every July 4th with their family. What is the obsession that all dreams, wants, and needs must be identical? What makes a single person think that the person standing next to them is eager for the same outcome? A box was placed around our society, our country, projecting it had to be a certain way, and you must live your life following a certain set of guidelines to succeed or become successful. Right along with you must look, act, and hold a certain standard. The American dream is an empty threat that offers nothing but chaos and discrimination. The American dream was meant to offer equal share of opportunity, and anyone can move anywhere in the class system. Everyone is socially acceptable. Instead, race, gender, and religion determine your place in society, and how hard you work or worked for what you have would have no influence on your lifestyle. The white race exuded force on African Americans and other minorities, causing them to be on lockdown, making sure these cultures or groups of people systematically fell back from their own potential in order to become successful. They were stripped away from their equal chances to live out what is so-called the American dream and turning a dream into a nightmare. Having to compete and prove yourself to others is diminishing and controlling. African Americans and other minorities were pushed to think and act a certain way, otherwise they were mistreated and abused. Being yourself was not good enough, so you put on a mask and replace yourself with someone you don't recognize. But how long until one breaks and becomes fed up? The American dream was a blanket. It was a way to hide under all the problems that were taking place in our country. Ta-Nehisi Coates explains, quote, "The dream thrives on generalization, on limiting the number of possible questions, on privileging immediate answers. The dream is the enemy of all art, courageous thinking, and honest writing." We as individuals, and especially people of color, cannot be original and have their own set of goals they want to achieve because in someone else's eyes, they aren't good or worthy enough. It's hard to trust anyone that judges you on something as simple as the color of your skin and then turn around and work for them, live next door to them, or interact with that individual in general on a day-to-day basis. Americans play dirty and they will do anything it takes to better themselves and get ahead of the one next to them in order to succeed. There is no clarity or natural interactions, but acts of selfishness and being crude to others whom are different than you and I. Coach reveals, quote, "I would never consider any American pure. But how could you when all they want is to see you fail?" African Americans and other minority groups were cheated out of being able to build and accomplish their own dreams and goals. But even though these groups of people were treated poorly and without any respect, they still found a way to come out on top and fight for what is theirs just as much as yours and mine. The dream is and was a form of brainwashing. It was an abyss of lies that occupied the human brain and trained them into thinking and becoming important and accepted in society. And accepted in society was the only way to succeed. But how and what can I do to be accepted? African Americans and other minorities were doing nothing different than the white race when trying to build a life for themselves and their families. I came across an article where a man of the African American race bought land and proceeded to build his home in an area that was considered the suburbs. Because the community and the people involved in the neighborhood felt uncomfortable, he was arrested for illegal use of used lumber. This act is unreasonable, unjustified, and because others had personal issues with this stranger, it caused a fiasco that was unnecessary. These people are guided and instructed to following a set of standards. They act on impulse and peer pressure and fold into anything. Coates explains, "The dream is the same habit that endangers the planet, the same habit that sees our bodies stowed away in prison and ghettos. The dream is a bad habit. It is the same habit that once you fall into the cycle of believing and acting the way the dream requires you to act, you fall into a dark, one-sided world that refuses diversity and change. This chain of racism and segregation must be broken so we can build a dream that involves everyone. The American dream isn't permanent. We still, as a country, can build a dream that equally involves everyone becoming successful in their own way." Being in control over not only yourself and your body, but what's happening around you is substantial to life. Coates felt he was not in control even over his own body, but because of the color of his skin was denied and refused of anything luxurious or exceptional. He felt being in his own skin was uncomfortable and he was misunderstood. Coates enunciates as for, quote, "As for now, it must be said that the process of washing the As for now, it must be said that the process of washing the disparate tribes white, the elevation of the belief in being white, was not achieved through wine tastings and ice cream socials, but rather through the pillaging of life, liberty, labor, and land, through the flaying of backs, the changing of limbs, the strangling of dissidents, the destruction of families, the rape of mothers, the sale of children, and various other acts meant first and foremost to deny you and me the right to secure and govern our own bodies. Desperate white tribes weren't done for social means or so one can become accomplished and successful, but to destroy and break up families, to strike them and break them for being of a different color and race. They didn't want to build up other ethnicities, but bring them down and force them and their families to be something they weren't comfortable being, white. There is no right or wrong way to live this life that you have been granted. We aren't supposed to be perfect, and it's the struggles and the strive that makes and shapes the person who you are today. The American dream is an oxymoron that doesn't allow us as individuals to grow and prosper in our own individual skin. It's a set of laws, a list of guidelines that insist you live your life this way, or you and your family will be unhappy and unsuccessful. African Americans and other minorities were taken advantage of and treated with such viciousness and wrongdoing that hiding and changing themselves seemed to be the only solution. That the American dream was the only direction to take in order to achieve what they wanted. Quote, and it is so easy to look away, to live with the fruits of our history, and to ignore the great evil done in all our names. But you and I have truly never had that luxury. Ignoring obstacles and troubles only covers the problem for a short period of time. America tried to bury its complications and dilemmas underneath a blanket of perfection that from the outside looked like a ray of sunshine, but underneath was full of aggravation. The American dream is vain, it's hurtful, and a disgrace. The only dream the people should yearn for is our dream that we have created for ourselves.